Literally everyone is here. 36. There's Chris. There's Ricky.
All right. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Paranormal Portal Saturday edition. I am your host, Brent Thomas, and you have made it to Saturday. We are here, and it's been a long time in the making, but we are still simulcasting here on TFR Live, iHeart, TuneIn, and on YouTube. And you can find the live stream over at YouTube if you go to youtube.com/paranormalportal. And hopefully everything continues working. There are no guarantees in the paranormal, I'm afraid, but we'll do the best we can. And as always on Saturday nights, I'd like to welcome to the show my good friend and co-host, Mr. Don Longbeard. Welcome to the show, Don.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you.
All right.
It's a beautiful Saturday.
It is. It's an exciting Saturday because, you know, everything's working and we're building, of course, what we're doing, and we're working long and hard. And I got to give a special thank you to Chris earlier today. Mr. Geo was helping me. He's just always so amazing. I'll just come to him with a question, and the next thing I know, we're dialed in, and he's whipping through and just making everything pristine. So if you like what you see when you're watching the Paranormal Portal, especially on TFR, obviously, that's all Chris's and Cherie's making. But if you like what you see on YouTube, I wish I could take more credit for it, but you are looking at the beauty of the creative process of Mr. Geo. So thank you, Chris, again for taking your time and helping me set all this up, because tonight, of course, we have a very special guest here on the portal. He's a therapeutic and regression hypnotherapist. He's a paranormal researcher. He's a UFOlogist. And he's a Illuminati researcher, and I'd like to welcome to the show Mr. Duncan Campbell. Welcome, sir.
Hello.
Wow, so great to see you here. From very dark England. Yeah, of course the times are quite a bit different, and it's bright and early over there, isn't it?
Yes.
I suppose I should get you on screen, shouldn't I?
Oh, there he is.
You are live on the air, sir. So here we go. And, you know, I can't thank you enough for coming in and being on the show. I know that it's a daunting task for anybody in my time slot to reach out to somebody across the pond and say, hey, you want to be on the show?
Let's have some fun.
It's of course, it's easy for me, but, you know, thanks for waking up in the early hours to be here and to be a part of this. I'm really looking forward to, you know, all of the information and the experiences you've had, of course, and it's just going to be a fun conversation. So thanks a lot for doing this. Absolutely. So here we go. This is the Paranormal Portal, ladies and gentlemen. And also, if you'd like to call in, the call-in board is always open here in the portal, and it's 213-233-3998. Again, 213-233-3998. And you can also call, and there's another number, and I'm going to get this one memorized at some point in time, but it's 833-TFR Live, and that works out to 833-837-5423. Again, 833-837-5423. And if you're calling from the UK, if you happen to be over there awake, just like Duncan, can't wait to embrace the day, then you too can call in at 44203-393-2871. Again, 44203-393-2871. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. I've just been a bundle of nerves because this is by far the most ambitious undertaking of the portal that we've ever tried, and it seems like everything looks like it's working. Don, do you have the YouTube stream up too?
Yeah,
it looks good.
Yep, it looks good. Hey, that's that Duncan guy, isn't it?
It is.
Hey, that's him.
Looks just like that guy in the picture that I used.
Wow, that's cool.
On the promotional poster. So Duncan, let's take a second, if you don't mind, and kind of go in the Wayback Machine and tell us, how did this journey start for you? I mean, when did the paranormal and UFOs all become a part of your life?
Well, that goes back a long way. I've always been into it since I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be the 1970s.
Wow.
And my granddad was very very clever guy, and he was always into all this kind of stuff, and he always had loads of those old books. You remember those old books with mysterious places in the world? And
oh yeah.
Eric von Daniken, he had Chariots of the Gods. He had the Charles Berlitz book on the Bermuda Triangle, and I used to read these things and just be absolutely fascinated by them.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I have to tell you that for me as a child in the paranormal, that one of the first books to really open my eyes to the universe of the paranormal and what that meant was when I got a hold of Charles Berlitz's World of Strange Phenomenon, I think it was. And I was just, wow, just amazing books.
They're just great, weren't they? And Arthur C. Clarke, anything by Arthur C. Clarke. And I remember that there was a TV series back in the 70s called Arthur C. Clarke's Mysterious World, and it started with the promo thing for it was the crystal skull, and it was like, oh yeah, now we're going woo.
Absolutely. So that's how you just like me. Then it sounds like you just always have had an attraction to this, and it's always been kind of a part of your lifeblood. Then.
Yeah, definitely. And also, my grandparents lived in Scotland because I'm half Scottish and my dad's Scottish. And he comes from a very small town in the borders called Melrose, which is a very ancient town.
Wow.
And they lived in a house, and this house was haunted.
Oh.
And I've had a number of experiences in that house, and so have a lot of other people. And I love my grandparents and I love that house, but it was haunted. And every time you would I mean, think about me, age 6, having everybody's in the living room by the fire watching the TV on a dark winter's night. Then I have to cross the hallway, switch the light on, go up this winding staircase to the top, go to the bathroom, and I'm thinking, oh no. And you could definitely feel there was something there, and it wasn't very pleasant sometimes.
Now, had you ever looked into the history of what could have been the root cause, or was there any event? Everybody looks for that catalyzing event that, well, this is because, and then fill in the blank. Was that house one of those as well?
Well, with Melrose, I mean, you only have to go about 5 centimeters and you've got some massive historic tragedy or some huge, massive historic occurrence. But yeah, I looked into it, and it used to be part of an old coaching house and stables.
Oh.
And I did look into it, and where the house was previous to that, there was a coach house there, and I believe there was a murder there.
Oh, yeah.
So it was poltergeist stuff.
Oh, it was. Okay. Now, was it a long-term phenomenon? Because usually when you hear of poltergeist, and I'm not merely just citing the classical references, but most paranormal investigators would say that poltergeist phenomenon is usually very short-lived.
Yeah, this wasn't. I think it would go on and off. It was cyclical.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, even in the summer, the rooms upstairs were cold, very cold, like see your breath cold.
Oh, geez.
And here's a story for you. When my grandmother died in 1999. My dad and I were up there for the last time, and we were just doing the house clearance and bits and pieces, and I was staying in the back bedroom and Dad was staying in my grandparents' old bedroom, and I was just sitting there reading, and I thought, right, I'll get an early night. So I switched the light off, and then I heard the breathing in the room, and I went, oh no. Really, no.
No.
And the next thing was the floorboards went,
Oh.
and I went, okay. And then the end of the bed there was a depression in the end of the bed, and you could feel the weight of something sitting on the bed. And I'm looking there, and there's nothing there, and I'm thinking, oh no. and then you hear there was a massive old oak wardrobe in the corner, and it started rocking from side to side, and then it actually lifted off the floor.
Oh my God!
Bang, 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 bang. And Dad went, are you all right in there? And I went, yeah, I'm fine.
Business as usual, Dad.
nothing to see here. And it was like, and I'm sitting in there, and it was a duvet over the head moment, I have to admit, because there's very few times that I've actually been gotten. But when it's your grandparents' house, and you know the history of the house, and you've got history with that house, and I thought, oh, okay, it's saying goodbye, I think.
Oh man, that's got to be disheartening. And I've told Don that, you know, on the Paranormal Portal here, we try to think of things that, you know, we can put out that'll be beneficial. And so far it's just turned out to be T-shirts that say Paranormal Portal or sweatshirts or hats. But we were thinking about doing Paranormal Portal bed sheets, because there doesn't seem to be any better defense against the paranormal than pulling the sheets up.
Nothing. They're practically bulletproof. Duvet, duvet covers. Yep. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
Essential piece of
Every paranormal kid should have one, I think, is what it is. But it's funny how that theme just plays itself out with children involved in hauntings. It's like, I don't want to see this anymore, so I'm just not going to see anything at all.
Yeah, exactly. And I've had a similar experience in a friend's house who lives in a very old house, up the road, actually, about sort of 20-minute drive from here. And that house is about 400 years old.
Oh, wow.
And I was sleeping on the couch one night, and they were upstairs in bed, and I was sleeping on the couch. This is about 20 years ago. And I heard again, I was just nodding off, and then I thought, yes. All of a sudden I hear that I went, oh, you've got to be joking. It was getting closer and closer. I went, okay. And then I heard the cabinet, and I went, oh no, this is not happening, you know. And then again, it was like the sitting down on the end of the couch and the depression, and oh fine, you know.
Oh yeah.
And then there was a scratching on the wall as well. There was a scratching.
Oh, you're kidding.
Yeah, and I went, oh wow, this is not good. So it seems to me, wherever I go, if there's anything there, they used to call me, in the ghost club that I belonged to years ago, they used to call me a ghost magnet. Because they just put me in a room and everything would start.
So you're that guy then, yeah, okay.
I'm that guy, yeah.
There does seem to be some people that just have that natural energy, that do draw that activity, that energy, attraction, yeah. And I don't know what it is though. Do you think it's a state of just self-awareness, or perhaps latent ability, or not so latent ability? What do you think that is?
I definitely think it's something to do with the energy field of the person.
Right.
It's not a psychological thing. I think it's just some people have that connection to source, the universe, whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter. Right. I think some people's connection is very strong. Some people's connection isn't so strong. Yeah,
I would agree with that a lot. And so this was only at Grandpa and Grandma's house then? And were you there a lot, or did you only visit at this point?
Yes. I mean, I was there a lot at my grandparents' house. We would go about 3 times a year, for a week or so. And then in the summer, I would get the coach used to stop at the end of the street here and just drive to Scotland, as you do.
Wow.
And I would get on the coach with my siblings, and my Uncle Donald would pick me up in Scotland and take me over to Granny and Grumpus, and I would stay there for like 2-3 weeks in the summer. It was great.
Wow, that is cool, but such history, and I think that's what to me, of course in America the paranormal research is a big thing, and certainly a lot has happened here, and that could inspire paranormal activity, or at least leave quite a psychic charge enough to cause residual in intelligent haunts or whatever. But over there, your history goes so much further back, and it just seems to me, like you were saying, and such tragedies happened, and with things like the plague, and with horrible wars, and the history upon history upon history is just impressed into just about every surface over there, it would seem.
It is. I mean, in Baldock, where I'm sitting now, is one of the oldest towns in the world.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the archaeology here is incredible. I have worked as well as an as an archaeological excavator.
Wow.
Which I used to do as a kid, because Baldock is so rich in archaeology. I mean, it goes it goes back to Stone Age.
Oh, sure. Wow.
And it goes through all the layers, you know. And the town itself, as it is now, was founded by the Templars, the Knights Templars.
Oh, wow.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And we have a huge church here, where they excavated the walls of the church, and they found a number of Knights Templars in full battle dress entombed in the church walls.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, so and we have I don't know if you guys are familiar with a famous highwayman that we had here about 300-400 years ago, called Dick Turpin.
That name does sound familiar.
Yeah, he used to sort of leap out on his horse Black Bess, and he used to sort of terrify carriages, you know, going from here to York, and stand and deliver, give us your money, you know, and all that kind of thing, with the mask on and the tricorn hat and everything. Well, he actually was known to come to Baldock.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So yeah, I mean, the George and Dragon Hotel down the high street there, his ghost has been seen there apparently. But we have a number of ghosts in Baldock. We have Roman soldiers walking through people's living rooms in Baldock.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Wow.
Are you serious? Wow.
Yeah, oh yeah.
We gotta go. That's bucket list kind of thing. We gotta go.
They do a great ghost tour here in the Baldock Festival. Most years, you know, where they take you around the town to the Orange Tree, which is a pub near my old school, and that's a very old pub. It's about 300-400 years old, and they have a poltergeist in there, a friendly one.
Wow.
And we have another pub called the Rose and Crown, which has a poltergeist which actually scratches you.
Oh, jeez. So you get marked. Now, when you were a child and having those experiences in your grandparents' house, did you ever experience anything like scratches or any kind of physical
manifestations?
Yeah, exactly.
No, I've never had physical manifestations in anywhere I've ever been to.
Mm-hmm.
The only time I've had physical manifestations is with the UFO stuff.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and we'll definitely be getting into that. We'll definitely be getting into that one. But
I've been privileged to go. I mean, I haven't been part of a paranormal investigation group for about 10 years since my dad died. In about 2008, I think I kind of officially stopped doing it. But I'm thinking of getting back into it again. And we did loads of EVP as well.
Oh, wow.
Oh, fantastic.
We got some real good Class A EVPs and from various places. And in fact, the best ones we ever got was from my friend Trev, who lives in Stevenage. He's an excellent paranormal investigator, Trevor Shreve. And we were sitting in his living room one night about 10 years ago, and a friend of ours had died at Christmas on his motorbike in a bad crash.
Oh.
And we decided we were going to try and contact him one night, and we got the EVP, and we got all the signs and stuff, and when we played it back on Goldwave, my God, it actually was him. And he had the same laugh and everything.
Oh, wow.
He just went you know, and it was like, it was him. You could tell it was his voice, his laugh, everything was there, and it was like, wow.
That is amazing.
He is good. And we got some very strange things from his living room. So
Right.
Oh, phenomenal. So at what point now, we've kind of gone through your childhood here a little bit and you having experiences from a very young age, at what point did you decide to start investigating?
Oh, officially investigating, that would have been about, just having to go back now. I started getting into some stuff about 99.
Oh, okay.
Properly getting it properly, you know, with equipment and thinking about it more and doing stuff. Although I've always had experiences and always looked into it and investigated it, you know. But about 99, because I did a course. I was already a hypnotherapist for about 5 years, and I was already doing regressions, past life regressions, all kinds of stuff. And then I started a course with Valerie Austin, who's the world famous hypnotherapist. She spends half a year in America and half here.
Oh, okay.
And I did a course with her in Richmond in London, overlooking Hampton Court, you know, Henry VIII's palace on the Thames.
Oh, wow.
And we were there for a week, and then I started looking into some stuff, and I started doing Reiki and looking into Reiki. I became a Reiki master and looking into that kind of things, and then looking into how to all this psychic surgery stuff, and just really getting into everything, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Crystal healing and all kinds of stuff, and just really getting into the woo.
Absolutely. And there's
semi-professional.
Oh, okay, I gotcha. And when you did start investigating, you were a part of a group at that time, a professional group, or was this just on your own?
That was just on my own, and then my then girlfriend that I had then, and we were looking into stuff, paranormal stuff, and then I would say probably from about 2003-04, I started joining groups and doing it, you know, everywhere.
Yeah.
Ghost hunting took off for years.
Right. Yeah. And now, are there a lot of paranormal groups over there? I don't have any experience with over there, but I can tell you over here, it's like you can throw a stone and there will be a paranormal group doing something. And, you know, I don't know, being as you have all that history and all the experiences that I'm sure happen in those areas, is paranormal investigating a huge thing over there as well?
It is. It's big.
Mm-hmm.
Really big. And it has been for I would say, last 15 years or so. It's been really big. Yeah, there's so many groups. So many websites, and it really took off here. There was a program here called Most Haunted.
I was just going to ask you about Most Haunted, but go ahead, carry on with your thought. I'll get to that.
That got a lot of people interested in it, and a lot of groups sprang up from that program.
Oh, very cool. And
yeah.
Now, speaking of I agree with you. I think the proliferation of all of these paranormal shows that have preceded the Paranormal Portal, even, you know, for years and years, I think have created the ability for people to have that dialogue and to, you know, express their interest, because I think the paranormal before that was kind of relegated to hallway discussions or, you know, away from anyone else in very private settings. But I think that at the very least, and I don't know that I can subscribe to all the shows or not, but I think that at the very least, the good part that came out of it was that it made the dialogue okay to have. Like, it wasn't, you weren't going to be the, you know, the whispered about person in the cafe anymore, you know, because it turns out everyone else was, you know, kind of interested in it too, or at least curious. And so I do have to give those shows a lot of credit for establishing that. And I do want to get into a couple things about those shows when we come back from break. We got about 3 minutes before we head to break, but in a nutshell, what is your impression of those shows?
Well, I used to watch them and I used to enjoy them.
Mm-hmm.
And I still watch some of them. I watch A Haunting sometimes. I quite like getting into that. You know, there's people's stories of stuff that's happened. They're dramatized and everything, but, you know.
Stories good.
Yeah, you know, stories are good.
Yeah.
I enjoy watching them from time to time now. I mean, when you've actually done it for as long as we've been doing it, you know, that's the real rush, isn't it? Actually being there.
Right.
and seeing it and doing it and recording it. That's brilliant. That you can't beat that. So you tend not to watch them anymore, really much.
Although it feels safer from the couch, but probably not going to get an attachment by using the remote. But but no, I think that's very true, and I think you're right about them being sensationalized. And of course, I think with any of our media, they're trying to push the drama. There's a lot of magic happening in editing rooms that I think may even serve to discredit the field, because it creates this expectation that you go into a haunted house and you put out a tape recorder and have some EMF sensors and a night vision scope, and there's things happening all over the place, and that couldn't be further from the truth. That true paranormal investigating is sitting around hoping something's going to happen, but usually being pretty disappointed.
Yeah, eating lots at 4 in the morning.
With a coffee IV and a lot of wishful thinking. Yeah,
no doubt.
Eating foods you would never eat at any other time of day.
Yeah, that baked piece of meat sounds just fine now. No, I hear.
Oh, you haven't eaten for 20 years, yeah.
Suddenly it's going to digest much better.
Yummy.
Yeah, ooh, I love chocolate.
Chocolate.
But I think that's true. And I think that people get this romanticized version of what paranormal research is. And when it comes time to actually putting boots on the ground and getting into these places and being in, buildings that might not be quite as safe as you'd like and definitely not clean, it's pretty disheartening. But I tell you what, Duncan, we're going to be heading to our first break here momentarily. Ladies and gentlemen, you can certainly, Duncan's going to be with us for the whole show, so don't worry, we'll have plenty more time to talk. And if you'd like to talk with Duncan, you too can call in. It's 213-233-3998 if you have any questions or any feedback you'd like to offer. We'd love to hear from you. But otherwise, we're going to head to break here and continue our discussion with Duncan Campbell, our special guest tonight, paranormal researcher, UFOlogist, regression and therapeutic hypnotherapist, and Illuminati researcher. So don't go away, everybody. We'll be right back.
Hold tight.
Don't become dependent on the medical system. Get and stay healthy.
welcome back, everybody. The second half hour of the Paranormal Portal. Don was just whispering to me that the cat was laying between his feet, which I assume will mean that his toes are fair game at any point now, which is just fine. But ladies and gentlemen, tonight we are joined by a special guest, UFO researcher, paranormal investigator, therapeutic and regression hypnotherapist, and Illuminati researcher, Mr. Duncan Campbell. Welcome again, sir, to the show.
Hi, Brent.
Just thrilled that you're here, brother, and thanks for doing this again. I'll be thanking you all night because I just love this. It's pretty phenomenal. But before the break, we were, of course, talking about a lot of ghost hunting stuff and how you became interested in the field and including your introduction to it. We kind of segued into the paranormal shows, and I was absolutely, I've read a lot of I don't know, online banter about the most haunted paranormal show. Is that the one where that team goes out and investigates a lot of those old castles? Is that the one that I'm thinking of?
That's the one.
Yes, yep. Yes. Okay, so just recently they released a clip where they actually finally caught a full-bodied apparition. Did you catch that? Have you seen that?
I haven't seen that. I heard about it, but I haven't seen it yet.
It's actually, as far as I can tell, it looks like a pretty spectacular piece of footage, and I don't know. I mean, clearly, in this day and age, it's certainly not hard to spoof things and to hoax them. And so I, with any of this stuff, unless you're there doing it, you have to, give it, at least weigh it with a good degree of skepticism. But I thought that was really interesting. But have you heard some of the controversy around the show? And I don't want this to be about bashing them, but I'm just curious about the paranormal talk over there about shows like this. I'm sorry if that's just not a good road.
Tactful hat. No, it's I don't. I think I used to watch them more for the venues,
Mm-hmm.
to find out where the venues were and what the history of the venues were, because they do like the first quarter of an hour of the show would be sort of more about the place and its history.
Yes, exactly.
And I was more interested in that and what bits of kit maybe they were using, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Actually what they found, which it tended to, when I was watching it years ago, it tended to be a more medium centric show to do with this, whichever medium they had with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I, the whole subject of of mediums is a controversial one.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying they're fake, and I'm not saying they're real. I prefer to trust my own feelings, and also what we can pick up with the kit as well. And
sure. And
also, most of the stuff you see tends to be in broad daylight or in very well lit rooms. It doesn't tend to be in very dark rooms.
Yeah, I know, right? So, and I think they must do it to just add to the suspense or whatever. But that's what occurred to me is like, paranormal activity is not just relegated to late at night. It can be broad daylight. It can be any time of the day. These things aren't just nocturnal.
No, and most ghosts are seen in broad daylight or very well lit rooms, and certainly some of the ones I've seen have been in very well lit rooms. I was on a vigil, actually, an investigation just down the road, literally a 2-minute walk,
mm-hmm.
in a very old manor house. While it was a housing association thing about 10 years ago, it's not now, but that was a well-known haunted place. It used to be the old doctor's surgery in Baldock, and we were in there with all the full kit, and we had some of the staff with us, and we were all paired off, and I was with this girl, and we were sitting sort of just waiting for something to happen, as you do. And we turned and heard something, turned and looked down a corridor, which was well lit, and we both saw a guy walk through a wall.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's profound.
Literally walked through a wall. There was no door there. It was like, oh.
Now, that brings up an interesting point. Now, I know that some researchers tend to favor the idea that spirits can walk through walls and stuff because during their time there may have been a door there in an open area.
Oh.
But I don't know. To me, it just seems like, well, they're just basically a rudimentary form of energy, so they can, of course, phase right through things like that without a problem. But what do you think? I mean, do you have an hypothesis?
I think you're looking at a broad spectrum of phenomena.
Okay.
And you've come across the stone tape theory, you know.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and some people, some of the stuff I've seen definitely seems to fit into that category.
Mm-hmm.
That maybe you are watching some kind of a recording that's just on a loop and it fades over time.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that one I just talked about was probably one of those.
Oh, okay.
The one seen in the house here, just behind me, literally just behind me, is a little boy in sort of early Victorian dress.
Oh, wow.
Who just sort of stands there and looks and then turns and moves towards the kitchen. That seems to be more of an interactive one.
Oh, okay. So he's looking at you, in other words.
Is kind of looking at you, you know, and it seems to that there's more of a connection there. Whereas some of them, I think, just feel like recordings.
Sure. Okay.
But Baldock's very interesting because it's built on the end of the Chiltern Hills, which are made of chalk. The ground here is all chalk.
Oh, wow.
And under the chalk, and it's very porous rock chalk, and under there is a huge underground water aquifer.
Oh, wow.
Lake.
Okay.
Which is interesting, isn't it?
It is.
Water.
When they talk about water, and I hadn't heard of chalk, but I've heard of certainly limestone being considered a very spiritual conduit as well.
Yeah. Well, limestone, chalk. It's all limestone and chalk around here. So.
Oh, it is. Okay.
There you go.
Wow. That's really powerful. Then, yeah. I guess. And what is it? There's a couple schools of thought with water. Some people like to proclaim that water is like a barrier where, that spirits don't like to cross, or, they don't like to cross it or whatever. But then I've heard other researchers or other people of the opinion that spirits can follow waterways and flow with the water. So I don't know what to think about that personally.
We have two very big, powerful ley lines that cross in Baldock. Over an underground lake. So go figure.
Doomed for paranormal activity.
You've got
doom on you.
You've got you've got the perfect storm brewing there, brother.
Yeah. It is. It's so old. And yeah, I mean the Celts believed that water was a portal to the underworld, to the other side.
Oh, okay.
So that would figure as well. We've got a lot of history here.
Yeah. Well, yeah, centuries and centuries, and into prehistoric times. Clearly, there's been a lot going on in your neck of the woods.
Yeah, I've been involved in archaeology that's been on serious archaeological programs on the BBC to do with Baldock.
Wow.
Going way back. But it's an interesting town, and the road that this house is in, just outside the window here, there is an old. It's written down that a Roman legion came through here and was partly massacred by Boudica. Have you heard of Queen Boudica?
No, I don't.
Well, she's also AKA Boadicea. She's more known as, but she was a queen of one of the Celtic tribes here, and she basically decided she was going to take the Roman legions on, and she won.
Oh, wow.
And there's a statue outside the Houses of Parliament and Big Ben with her on her war chariot drawn by 4 horses, sort of standing there with a sword. So that was like right outside your door. Pretty much, yeah. And also outside the other door, the back door, literally a 3-minute walk. There's a football field, a soccer field, and basically there are archaeological ruins of a Roman temple on that field, and it's actually mentioned by one of the Roman historians. I can't remember which one, but Julius Caesar visited that temple.
Oh wow!
Oh, you're serious? He actually came that far north? I had no idea.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He where London is now. He was where London is now, and also into Hertfordshire, which is about 30 miles north of London or so. And also, I used to live when I was a very small child in St Albans down the road, which was called Verulamium, which was one of their big cities. And she sacked Verulamium. She burned it to the ground and killed everybody in it.
Wow.
If there was a Roman, if you spoke Italian and you were under a certain height, you were toast.
Wow. Well, you know, I looked it up. There was a movie, Warrior Queen, and it has Alex Kingston in it, if I'm right.
Yeah.
And she was in Doctor Who, quite a few Doctor Who's.
Oh.
She was
Yeah,
also
she was
in
Rip Song.
Yeah, and she was also in our American TV show called ER.
Oh, okay.
So very famous. Yeah.
Well, that's
Interesting.
Yeah.
So,
And I believe there's a new Sky TV series here called Britannia,
okay.
which is all about the Roman legions and Boadicea and the Druids, which is quite good.
Oh, that would be phenomenal.
I'm watching that at the moment.
What did you say it was called?
It's called Britannia.
Britannia.
It's on Sky, which would be Fox in America, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
And
like to check that out.
Oh yeah, it's worth watching. The Druids are really, really bad in that. They're really
Like
you know.
kind of like the Vikings are portrayed in the Vikings shows or whatever.
Way worse.
Really?
Oh wow.
Oh, they're weird. Yeah. Mind you, they were. So.
Well,
Sure.
sure. Yeah.
Well, yeah, they had quite a few different, their rituals and their practices and things like that, and yeah, it's just I get weirded out every time I hear something new. I mean, personally, I never thought that any real heads of Rome ever crossed Hadrian's Wall, but they've got to get there. So But hearing every time they dig up something more about the Celts or the Woads or whoever that is, that particular culture, there's always something new, something just out of the blue that you would have never ever guessed or had no clue of. So.
Absolutely. I mean, there are two walls that the Romans built in Britain. People don't usually know about the second one, but there's the Hadrian's Wall is the famous one, which goes from Newcastle to Carlisle, across the English-Scottish border. And then there's a second wall that they built in Scotland just to make sure the Scots, didn't get anywhere near them because they were terrified of them. It was Scotland, or Caledonia, was the only country in the Roman Empire they couldn't conquer. They ran away. The Roman legions ran away from Scotland.
That's impressive.
And considering you have a president that's half Scottish, that's why the cabal doesn't like him. So basically, they built a second wall from roughly from sort of Glasgow right across to sort of Edinburgh type way, called the Antonine Wall.
Antonine. Okay.
Wow.
And that's a very interesting looking wall. And there was more of that left than there is of Hadrian's Wall, so that's worth checking out.
Now, isn't Hadrian's Wall just basically a waist high kind of thing, though? I mean, it's really not, as far as
some bits.
Okay.
Some bits are there's nothing left, and other bits it was very, very tall. It's like sort of Great Wall of China time. I mean, it was very tall.
Oh, it was really. Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it had massive forts along it. I mean, they really didn't want anything coming south. Any of the Picts that were there at the time, because it was pre-Celtic then, it was Pictish.
Okay.
And it was the Picts that were in Scotland then. Right. And if there were any Celts in Scotland then, they wouldn't have spoken the Scottish language. They would have spoken Welsh, which was the original language of Britain.
Oh, okay.
Because the British are a tribe from what is now Glasgow.
Oh, I had no idea. Wow.
Yeah, it's very weird. Everybody, the Scots spoke Welsh, the English spoke Italian. I mean, it's just, it was a very strange time.
It really was, and it's just it's so amazing to know that all of that history happened right in your neighborhood. I mean, I've been over there. I went over to England in let's see, when was it? 2006, I think I was over there, and I did the whole touristy thing and saw like Stonehenge. Got to walk around that, and I saw the what was it? The Windsor Castle? Is that the one?
Oh yes, yeah.
Yeah, I toured Windsor Castle and saw went to London and all that. But I also had the benefit of staying with a good friend of mine at the time. We've kind of lost contact over the years, but I stayed with them for the couple of weeks that I was there and spent time with he and his family, and it was really neat to not see it like a tourist, to see it like the locals see it. And I'm here to tell you, those roads are narrow, and you guys drive really fast.
Yeah. Yeah. Wiltshire, where Stonehenge is. My girlfriend's from Wiltshire, and Wiltshire's a portal.
Oh, okay. Well, that wouldn't surprise me at all. Yeah.
Yeah. They have a lot of top secret military bases in Wiltshire, right next to all these ancient stone monuments. There's actually, in Baldock again, there's actually a henge in Baldock, which is one of the oldest henges in the world. They discovered about 5 or 6 years ago.
Is that the super henge?
No, you can't see anything above ground because actually a henge actually just means a ditch,
right?
A round or a ditch or enclosure. And this one is way older than Stonehenge by about 3,000 years or so.
Wow.
It could be the first one. It could be one of the oldest ones in the world.
So is there any indicator, and I realize this isn't maybe the theme of the show, but I'm still very interested in this. Is there any indicator of who the hell put those things up?
Oh, no doubt. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, who did it?
I don't think anybody really know. I mean, they will just tell you here. The archaeological community will tell you here. It was the ancient tribes, the ancient Celtic tribes.
Yeah.
Wow.
The ancient Britons. But I don't think anybody really knows. But they found a couple of curses here as well, which is spelt circus.
Okay.
And what curses are is they're giant ditches. Mm-hmm. But they go in a straight line, like a dual carriageway on a motorway, like on a freeway, and they run parallel to each other, and they run up to this henge in Baldock, and then they seem to peter out, but nobody knows what they were for or why.
Wow, that is
just very weird. But we have some springs here as well, some very ancient springs here as well, which is very sacred to the Celtic people.
Oh, that's phenomenal! Yeah, and again. Those are definitely conduits for spirits as well.
Definitely, yeah.
Oh, that is so phenomenal. And
elemental.
It seems like a lot of things happen around the UK though, because I mean, you guys have obviously got the hauntings, you've got the Celtic tribes, the old practices, the Fae were basically born there, as far as I can understand it, with the Isle of Man, being right in your neighborhood, but. Also, a whole lot of UFO activity going on in your neck of the woods. One of the things I did want to talk to you about was the crop circles.
Oh yeah.
Have you ever done any research into the crop circles?
Lots.
Okay.
Yeah, lots of research into the crop circles. They fascinate me, those things.
Right.
And Wiltshire, of course, is the crop circle
Mecca,
centre of the world, isn't it? Really.
Yep.
Let's be honest. Alton Barnes and the Barge Inn and there's a lot goes on. Some friends of mine run the UFO Academy at Garston Manor, the O'Neill sisters. Katrine and Lily and Rasheen, and they have the UFO Academy a couple of times a year, and they have people like Chris Everard speaking there, and Simon Parks and people like that. Mm-hmm. And they're very big into the crop circles as well. They probably know more about it than me, but we had one of the first times crop circle is actually mentioned is up the road. There's a little village, and I'm just for the life of me can't remember the name of. Great Dunmow is the name of the village, and in the church at Great Dunmow, which is a medieval church, there's a carving on the wall called the Mowing Devil, and it's a medieval carving of a field of wheat or whatever they were growing, and it's the carving is of the devil cutting it out into a circle.
Oh,
wow.
And that's called the Mowing Devil, and that's the first recorded crop circle.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, wow. That and when is that dated, roughly? What time frame are we talking?
That would be somewhere 1400s or somewhere, sort of Wars of the Roses time, maybe pre that.
Now, so what you're saying then, and this is news to me completely, is that the crop circle phenomenon is not a new phenomenon. It's something that's been ongoing for centuries.
Yeah, it seems to be. And of course, Colin Andrews, the great crop circle researcher, who I think lives in the US now.
Okay.
He actually came to Baldock about 20 odd years ago and did a talk in the community centre, about 5-minute walk from here. And I grilled him all night, bless him. and we got into talking about everything. And he was really, really good. He's a Facebook friend now. So,
oh, nice.
He was saying that crop circles appear not only in crops, but also in the snow and the ice. Also on the tops of trees, the tree canopies on the tops of forests, woods,
I'd never heard of that.
rainforests. Yeah, and pilots can see them in the tops of the trees. That they can also appear in deserts and in rocks. So
Wow, interesting.
and on the ice as well.
Mm-hmm.
So everywhere.
So it was over in your neck of the woods also that famous video was recorded, right? Of showing that orb, those two orbs going over this field and the circle forming.
Absolutely, the orbs in the yeah, definitely. I think that was in the 90s.
Okay, yeah.
Or the early 2000s. But that's a great video.
It is.
And a lot of people have reported seeing stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
I've seen phenomenon like that. I haven't seen them, making crop circles, but I've seen phenomenon like those around, and I've interacted with it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I've interacted with a lot of UFOs over many years.
We're definitely going to crack into that in the next hour, but as we're about 5 minutes out of break right now, but so for crop circles, what is your opinion of what they mean? I mean, what is going on here? Are they truly messages that need to be deciphered, or are they
just giant hoaxes?
I don't think they're the whole Doug and Dave thing was cooked up by MI6 to put people off to keep us asleep.
Right.
Okay.
Nobody believes in Doug and Dave and the plank of wood and because these things are massive. They appear literally in minutes, in the dead of night. And anybody who knows Wiltshire will know that you're out in the middle of nowhere. There is no ambient light, In these places, it's pitch dark.
Right.
And for them to appear in minutes in the dead of night with these things are massive, some of them, aren't they? They're hundreds of feet across or whatever, and so complex.
Right.
Anybody who believes Doug and Dave in a plank or
right. Well,
there's no hope for you.
What's really interested me is they say that they're out there with 8-foot planks and they're stomping it down. Well, when you do that with a plank, you break the stalks instead of bend the stalks. Another question I have, the real question is where does the radiation come from at that point? Because where does are they out there throwing uranium pellets out into the field? I mean, what are they doing? Where is the radiation coming from? A plank and a board, a piece of wood, and two dudes out in the field isn't going to create radiation. So
no, it's not. And also, you're right. The nodes in a genuine crop circles, the nodes are bent and they're blown out.
Right.
They're blown out where the microwave has caused the water in the
to superheat and burst.
To superheat and burst at these nodes, and you don't get that. And you can fake crop circles, but they're very simple and very obvious. And you're right. You don't get the blown nodes. You don't get the microwave background radiation. You also don't get those small pellets.
Yeah,
the small round
glass. Yeah.
Exactly, of metal that appear in some of them, and you also don't get the EMF readings that you get in some of them, or the magnetic readings, and or the feelings of nausea and all this other stuff, which you could put down to suggestion, but I don't think so. I've been around crop circles where I have felt kind of weird, very disorientated. I think what they are is something is phasing in or out of the ground. And what you're seeing is it's a 3D shape coming through. Right. And what you're seeing is a 2D representation of the 3D shape.
It's like the Flatlander.
Yeah, because if you look at some of the mandalas, Sanskrit mandalas, when they're like cross sections of DNA. If you actually extrapolate the 3D image from them, you can see the DNA strands.
Okay.
Wow.
So, something like that. But I think they probably are messages or footprints left behind by something we can't understand.
That manifests somehow from the ground and makes these shapes. Because now, so so is this a language? Is this like a written language that's coming up? Because those crop circles, they change. Obviously, they're different. They're same fields, different messages. So is this a language that we're missing? Is this writing on the wall? Thoughts like that. Any ideas?
Well, it's interesting because the Celts were they had an oral tradition. They didn't have a written language. Right. Everything, if they had anything, it would be pictographic.
Right.
So, I mean, maybe there's a reason for that.
Maybe.
Okay. I
Maybe.
gotcha.
And the Picts as well, very strange. The Ogham script and all this kind of thing.
Yeah,
but I don't know.
Right.
Huh.
It's just very interesting, and I find it absolutely fascinating with the mathematical complexity of these designs, and to be rendered flawlessly,
Quickly.
And quickly. I agree with you that it doesn't seem plausible that two schmucks are out there with a couple boards and a lot of free time, apparently.
A few pints as well.
And a few pints. But Duncan, we're going to head to our hour break, and we will continue on with this journey into the world that you know, sir. So all you guys out there, stick around. Make sure to subscribe and like the video if you're checking us out on YouTube, and otherwise you can check us out on tfrlive.com/chat. And you can chat with the residents over there as well. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
Play their games. Everybody loves to place their bets. They don't understand the price I paid. They don't care to comprehend. Trace their lines upon my body, dripping scars across my heart. Raging anger boils inside me as their lies keep falling apart.
Carol Ann is not like those she's with. They're attracted to the one thing about her that is different from themselves. Her life force. It is very strong. It gives off its own illumination. It is a light that implies life and memory of love and home and earthly pleasures. Something they desperately desire, but can't have anymore. Right now, she's the closest thing to that.
Poltergeists are usually associated with an individual. Hauntings seem to be connected with an area. A house, usually.
Poltergeist disturbances are of fairly short duration, perhaps a couple of months. Hauntings can go on for years.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the second hour of tonight's Paranormal Portal presentation. We are live here. It is the January the 27th, and we are having a great time. Hope you guys are doing great out there. And if you are hearing the sound of my voice and you haven't done it already, head over to youtube.com/Paranormal Portal and subscribe and like. And we do our live streaming there. We've now started simulcast streaming, not only to TFR Live and to iHeart and TuneIn, but also to YouTube at the same time. So if you want to see us do the magic that we do, or the mayhem as it may
Mayhem that comes across it.
or the mayhem that occurs when we're trying to do magic, then you can see it happen and join in the fun over on YouTube. And of course, if you are listening to us on iHeart or TuneIn or TFR Live, and you haven't done it already, stop over to tfrlive.com and become a member. It certainly helps to support what we're doing here, not only on the Paranormal Portal, but every other show that's on our fantastic network. And you too can become a member, and you can get unlimited access to all the archives, commercial-free downloads of any of the shows that you want. So it's definitely a great undertaking, and it certainly opens a lot of doors to a lot of information that's out there. TFR Live just has such a phenomenal host or collection of hosts, and with such a diverse and amazing backgrounds, and some phenomenal shows. And I'm absolutely honored to be a part of it myself, and to bring you the Paranormal Portal. So if you want to help support what we're doing, stop by tfrlive.com/Paranormal Portal, and on the right-hand side, you'll see a link to become a member. So check it out, ladies and gentlemen. But we are joined tonight, Don and I are joined tonight by our phenomenal special guest and our official beta test here on the Paranormal Portal as we simulcast and do our first live interview on a simulcast stream. But we are joined tonight by UFO researcher, paranormal investigator, Illuminati researcher, and hypnotherapist.
So yeah.
You got quite a laundry list there, but Mr. Duncan Campbell is joining us tonight, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, it's been just phenomenal. And just before break, we were discussing crop circles. And, of course, Duncan is very well-versed in crop circles, has done a lot of research into the area. And so he was sharing some of the gems of his knowledge and some insights that I think have really helped. Now, Duncan, what I do want to ask you is, do you think that there is a continuity of messages, kind of like what Don was saying, in those crop circles? Do you think that, is it important to have record of all of them to understand some kind of messaging that might be happening? Or do you think that they're very regionally specific?
I think you just catalogue them all, really, and see if you can find patterns. Because I do think that they've been escalating, and I do think that it probably ties in with what's happening in the world right now, with all the stuff that's going on. Let's just say disclosure stuff, like cabal stuff and all that.
Exactly. And so do you think that this is a segue to disclosure? Do you think that this is like the kind of the wetting or priming the pump, so to speak?
I think so. I think all this stuff that's going on with the Q phenomenon at the moment, and the stuff, and also I think disclosure is imminent.
Okay.
Really?
I don't think it's going to be very long before, because all of this stuff that people are going to find out about, about the child trafficking rings and everything that are very real, have been going on for hundreds of years, and are now on an industrial scale. Also, all these deep underground military bases. Right. We are talking, like Richard Dolan says, we are talking about a breakaway civilization here.
Oh, sure.
And they're about to be unearthed.
Oh.
And I think disclosure is part of that. UFO disclosure is part of that.
So is that part of their plan? Yeah. Is that what you mean, or is it part of just us becoming aware?
I think disclosure is part of us becoming aware of what has been going on and being done to us by a breakaway civilization of human beings, and possibly connected to something else.
Right.
The tech that they have been hoarding.
Right.
And all the rest of it. So I think disclosure really is part of that. But I think they want to do a soft disclosure, which is like, give them a breadcrumb here and a breadcrumb there.
Right.
And that's not going to be allowed, I don't think. I think it's full disclosure or nothing, and I think it's imminent.
Well, I've personally seen, through the internet, everything's based on internet. We can reach across, we can reach across the world on the internet. And there have been pictures that have been supposedly leaked of hybrid children here on Earth. Now, do you and they said they were leaked for a soft disclosure, getting us used to it and assimilating us to them, as opposed to assimilating them to us. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that? This is a really murky area, because the cabal are very real. The Illuminati are very, very real, but also the Illuminati is a huge subject. I will tie that in.
Go ahead.
The Illuminati is a huge subject, because it's not one group of people.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of groups of different people with different ideas about how to run the planet, good and bad.
Okay.
And the bad ones have been in control for the last 400 or 500 years or more. And now, time's up. TikTok.
Right.
Time's up.
Right.
And the rest of them have decided, no, we're no more of that nonsense, and share and play nice with the rest of the kids in the playground. And that seems to be what's occurring. And that I believe that there'll be a big tech release and a big disclosure, a proper disclosure.
Mm-hmm.
I think even it's possible that some of these off-world extraterrestrials are involved in it in some way. And I'm talking about benevolent factions.
Okay.
Well, good. I sure hope so.
Yeah. Because if we are to believe some of what some of the greatest minds in the world, aka Mr. Hawkins, says, they're just, according to him, they're just coming to eat us, and they're just going to assimilate us and turn us back into gold digging giants, So, it's nice to hear that there is a great possibility of benevolent creatures coming to actually help us. I've read, and there's some, connection to SSP, the Secret Space Program, things like that, that says that, on the backside of the moon, it's totally inhabited, that they've got it all, territories. They've got all their own territories, the blue avians, the reptilians, the different reptilians, the grays, the tall grays, the short grays, whoever that may be, and there's, factions up there that don't want us to live any longer. And then there's the benevolent factions that say, let them grow and figure it out on their own. Do you think some of this, I know you're going to say yes, but some of this, some of the kidnapping rings and, because we have people that swear that they were on Mars in the SSP, and they were kidnapped as children back in the 80s, and that they're just coming back to Earth. Corey Good, for example, now he said that he was on the moon translating for the blue avians because he's an empath. Thoughts on that?
The only blue avian I know about is the Twitter logo. But to be fair, I'm really I have looked extensively into all that, I'm not a believer in the blue avians.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean to say they're not real. It really doesn't.
Right.
Sure.
But I never used to be much of a believer in the secret space program, but I'm beginning to come round to the idea now, because this Illuminati cabal that's been running the place,
Right.
have so much technology. The MK Ultra is so widespread. Everybody thinks MK Ultra is just a few pop stars, a few people in Hollywood. And it is, but it's also all of us as well, in more subtle ways.
Sure.
You know, the Lily waves that are prevalent in every electrical appliance, you know, the carrier waves that they use. The mind control is so prevalent. The Operation Mockingbird media that's worldwide now, you know. And the hypnosis, the level of hypnosis that we've all been under has put us all into a trance. And now some of us are waking up from the trance and going, ooh, okay, that's not very good.
Right.
And we're looking at it, and they're going, "Oh God, don't wake up, go back to sleep." And we're not going back to sleep.
Here's
And
more
once you go-
Kardashians.
yeah, there's more Kardashians after the news, which isn't news; it's fake. So yeah, it's I think once you wake up, that's it. The game's up.
Right.
It's the Wizard of Oz, isn't it? It's the old guy behind the curtain. Don't look over there.
Right. Sure.
But I think regarding the moon, I think it's entirely possible that there is stuff on the moon, definitely. The Richard Hoagland stuff about the shard and everything is fascinating as well, you know, and people look into that.
Right. Absolutely. So, wow, you know, with this particular part of the conversation, where does this lead your mind? What is your belief on the Chinese for decades have said that they do live among us, period. And you know, so do you think that they are already assimilated? You know, we had a movie, it was called They Live here in the States.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think that they're already here and that they, you know, I'm pretty sure I think you've got some assimilation ideas already, but what do you honestly think about that?
I think that's way more than likely.
Okay.
When I saw that film, I mean, that was amazing. 1988 or 89, wherever it came out. I remember thinking, coming out and just putting the sunglasses on and going, oh yeah. Put the glasses on.
Well, you know, that does bring
I've come here to chew bubble gum and kick ass.
I'm all out of bubblegum.
No, that was a classic line. It was a great movie, and
I keep expecting Donald Trump to put the glasses on and going, I came here. I'm waiting for that.
Nice.
could happen. I don't know.
I
could
see
happen.
a new meme come up.
Nothing
yeah.
seems out of bounds in this day and age. That's for
Definitely
sure.
that.
But I do have to ask, you know, and in terms of disclosure, and this is my personal reflection. Of course, I'm sure you're well aware of the disclosure hearings that happened at the Press Club in Washington. I think in 2013 or whenever it happened. But very, very incredible. When was it?
McKinnon, wasn't it?
Well,
Never mind. I'm sorry.
This segment of the show is brought to you by Don Longbeard. No, I'm just kidding. This is Don's bread and butter. You got to understand Duncan. He loves this stuff, and he's more versed in this knowledge than I am. But in the disclosure hearings, I thought there was just some phenomenal testimony brought forth, and I thought that it was very, very compelling at the least. And I think they brought it together some of the most high caliber witnesses possible to impress upon the need for disclosure. And it was a brilliant thing. Now, a couple of things. I thought that Paul Hellier's testimony was very, very interesting and very, very, it was very compelling. But here's my problem with what happened there. And I just wonder what your feelings of this are. And so they get together all these people to, you know, speak in front of all of these senators and other, you know, important people to tell them about these events that have been happening and the need to push for disclosure. And it was going great. And then Paul Hellier, of course, got up, and his station is unquestionable what he's done and, you know, and his caliber of his activity in the global realm of things. But I think that him taking the microphone and then going on I'm sorry, what?
I'm sorry. No.
Oh, okay. and making a whole list of not only are they real, but here's how many are here and living with us, and and I just thought it was so overwhelming that it's like, opening the door to another world, and then ushering in all the animals all at once to these people that have never seen or heard of animals before. It was just like really just overpowering, and I don't know that was probably the forum to go into such a level of conversation. What are your thoughts on that? Because people weren't ready. They might have had an open mind or whatever, and then they heard from these compelling witnesses, and maybe we're at the point where it's I can kind of see something's going on here, and we need to look into it. And then to have somebody come up and go, not only that, but your milkman is avian.
Yeah. It's what the FBI called an orgy of evidence.
Right.
It's so much stuff coming out. Yes, because ecosystems, isn't it? The human mind is an ecosystem like anything else, and if you overwhelm the ecosystem with too much new stuff, it will collapse.
Right. Yeah.
And then people will go, but I think we've reached a point now where so much stuff is now coming out about the cabal and what they've been doing, and it's very real. The cabal is very real. What they've been doing with the trafficking of the children and the adrenochrome and the blood drinking and the cannibalism is very real. The sacrifice stuff, it's very, very real. Whether you believe in the devil or not, it doesn't matter. They do. Right. They really do. And all these entities and stuff that they're mucking around with and what they're doing and have been doing for thousands of years. If you go on the Enigma channel and you look at Chris Everard's documentaries into documenting their history and where they came from, and it's fascinating. Oh, yeah. Really fascinating. There's a lot of stuff out there. If you want to check it out,
absolutely,
you can take it right back. These organizations are thousands of years old. Thousands of years old.
So do you think that there might be an overlap between the idea that there are several species of extraterrestrial beings living amongst us, and an uprise in the amount of demonic possession and things like that going on? Is there a correlation, or could the demonic thing be an overlap of alien, and are there a confusion or a misidentification or misrepresentation of one or the other?
I think there's a lot of confusion around the subject. I think a lot of people are saying all aliens are demons, or all aliens are good, or all aliens are bad. It's not as simple as that. It's going to be a way more complex Men in Black type scenario.
Yes,
probably.
Exactly.
Good, bad, and everything in between. But I do think the full disclosure, as we mean from a UFO point of view and an exopolitics point of view, is imminent. And I think it's all tied up with all this cabal stuff, and because they've been suppressing it for so long,
right? And
they have a lot of that tech that they've been suppressing for so long. The alleged med beds, that we keep hearing about, that repair the body and extend the lifespan, and and all the other tech that we're talking about, the teleportation tech, the jump room tech, the TR3Bs that are now in the public domain, these black triangles that can be anywhere in the world in seconds,
Right.
I've seen black triangles. I cannot interact with a black triangle psychically, but I have interacted with other UFOs psychically, and they are way different.
Oh, sure.
Interesting.
Now, I said before you came on the show that I was going to share with you my own personal experience, and we've got about 6 minutes before the last break, and
wow.
I don't know if we'll have time to hear what I have to say and then hear what you have to say, but I'll go through my experience kind of rapidly. It's not a real complex story, but what was happening is I was visiting this area that I'm living in now in the north of Idaho, and all my life I've had an open mind for the possibility of extraterrestrials and UFOs and that they could very well be here. But all my life as well, I've always looked at the night sky and only seen stars, and only seen shooting stars. Well, I was visiting up here about 4 years ago at my friend's cabin that was going to be his house. Nobody was living there at the time, but it was all finished and ready to go. And I was up here on business at the time, and he said, you know what, why don't you just stay up at my cabin? We're not moved in yet. We're living somewhere else, but you're welcome to use it for the time. So, and it's very out in a very secluded area up in a mountain valley. And so I went up there, and it was nighttime, and at his house up there, he had these night vision binoculars. And I was like, oh, cool. And I wanted to go out and check out the night sky because, of course, there's no light pollution. It's up in the mountains. Beautiful. And I wanted to see the night sky because, of course, most of the stars in our galaxy are red, and they're not as visible with the naked eye. And so I went outside with these night vision binoculars looking at the night sky, and it was just spectacular. Couldn't even recognize a constellation anymore because of the introduction of all these new stars that I wasn't seeing with my eyes. And I'm looking around, and I I'm like a kid with a new toy. I've got night vision now, so this is really cool. So I started looking around and panning around. I looked on the opposite side of the valley. His house was built up on one side of the valley, and then, of course, there's an opposing mountainside there. And I was looking across and looking at all the trees and stuff, just thinking, wow, this is really cool. And then I panned over on my side and looked at the driveway, and he had a switchback in his driveway. And a switchback is where it goes uphill, so they kind of make it long and then do a sharp corner and then long again to handle the incline. And I'm looking down that to the switchback, and I'm like, wow, I can see all the way down there. This is really spectacular. And then I pan up, and just above the treetops at about 20-foot level, about 200 or 300 yards away from me, is the proverbial pie plate, the saucer. And it's floating there, and it's like two pie plates, one upside down on top, and the other one right side up, and there's panels of light in between, and it's quite big in my field of view, and I'm like, oh my God, and it's not a sound, and there was enough ambient light from the moon being out that I could see, without the night vision as well, but I'm sitting there looking at it, and it's sitting there, not a sound, just sitting there. And I'm like, wow, this is spectacular. So then I take down the binoculars and look with my naked eye, and I can't see it. It's not there. Bring back up the night vision binoculars. It's there. So it just dawned on me, oh, my God, I can't see them with normal vision. It's like it's not visible in my normal light spectrum. But with these infrared goggles, I can see it. And then I'm raising them, lowering. I'm looking at it. I'm just having a field day. And then I'm like, oh, my God, wait a minute. If I'm looking at them, chances are they're sitting here looking at me too. And I'm like, okay, this just got really real. I'm going to go inside now. And so I didn't see it take off or anything, but I went inside and shut the door and called it a night, sat on the bed for about 3 hours trying to process this amazing event. But at that point, it became real. And I really believe they were extraterrestrial in origin because, they were cloaked in our normal light spectrum. And that was my experience. Now, I don't have any missing time that I know of after that. I don't have, it's not like they decided to come and check me out. It was, as far as I know, that was the end of that experience. But have you heard of such a thing prior to that?
Yes. Yeah. I've had that experience.
Wow.
A few times. And one time I had it. I do have missing time. Okay. Like 35, 40 minutes of missing time.
Oh my God. And we'll certainly get into that more on the other side of the break. But, after that, having that, like I told you prior to the show, it was like that was the introduction moment. Because since then, I went and bought a pair of these binoculars right after that. I'm like, oh my God, I have to have them. I have to have them. I don't care. I'm bending plastic and went out and got it. And so I, go outside and now I have seen another saucer go right overhead in the same area. It was much higher than the one that I saw initially. And then I've seen these anomalous lights high up in the sky moving around, and I can't say what they are. They're just these orbs of light that seem to be way up there doing weird things. And I have seen look like a shooting star, except no tail and not moving quite that fast, coming down at a 90-degree angle right towards the ground and then disappearing from sight behind a hill. So, it was like after that one experience, suddenly they just became present, for lack of a better term. So it was really phenomenal.
Yeah, when you first encounter one, you can build a connection with them.
Oh.
And they will appear more, and they'll even you can say, all right, well, I used to have this chrome sphere. I can only describe it as a chrome sphere, and I would see it, and this was about 15 or so years ago, and I would see it come from behind a cloud in a blue sky, you know, and it would just show itself, and it would just dart out from the cloud sort of sideways.
Oh, wow.
And then I would look at it and I would interact with it, and I'd say, well, go back into the cloud, and it would go back into the cloud, and I'd say, come out again, it would come out again, and it would just play. It would just play around, you know, and you can talk to these things, and you can communicate with them, and they're very playful and very benign, I think. I mean, it's unlike these black triangles, which I believe, these TR-3Bs, which are cabal back-engineered tech.
Oh, sure.
Military tech, you know, used for gun running, drug smuggling, probably God knows what else. But I think the other stuff, the allegedly the Pleiadian stuff, from, you know, which is allegedly where they're from.
Right.
So some of them anyway, are very benign, very benevolent.
Cool. Well, we're going to take the last break of the show, and we'll be back for the last half hour for more of this exciting interview with Mr. Duncan Campbell. Don't go away, everybody. We will return shortly. welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the last half hour of tonight's show. I hope you guys have been enjoying it. I certainly have been enjoying it immensely. We are, of course, joined tonight by our fantastic guest, Mr. Duncan Campbell, and I would like to keep going over your list, but it's just so long, the things that you've done, and but just fascinating stuff tonight. And we're actually getting some questions in the chat, and Don, would you mind fielding those?
Oh, well, actually, one that I went back to had something to do with the kidnapping and the pedophile rings and things like that, and they just basically asked if the regular population knew really what was going on with the kidnappings and the children being taken. Do you think that we would be strong enough as the non-elites to stop it and to make things right in that sense?
Yeah, I do. I think I don't think it's going to be very much longer before everybody knows.
Right.
I think the mainstream will collapse pretty shortly.
Amen. No, I'm just kidding.
Well,
we'll see.
Right.
Obviously, famous last words, but we'll see. But I think it's going that way. I think it's going that way, and I think people are going to have a massive shock.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
When they see the scale, the industrial scale of it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like
globally,
the depravity goes so deep.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
It does, and particularly in Hollywood, you're going to see that, and when it's one thing talking about all this, discussing about the possibilities of it. Right. It's another thing when you know it's all true and you know it's all connected to the UFO stuff. It's connected to the other, practically everything. It's basically, I said on Facebook the other day, you best get reacquainted with the X-Files because you're living in it.
It's very true, though.
Basically,
it is.
Very shortly, everybody's going to be Mulder and Scully.
But that show was really prophetic, and perhaps that was somebody's attempt at least beginning to shine a light on some of this stuff going on, because not only is there layers upon layers of reality that I think we're just finally starting to become aware of as a more global society, but the layers and layers of deception and cloak and dagger and just wholesale disregard for decency.
Yeah.
It runs so deep, but it was like X-Files was very ahead of the curve on all of that.
Very. And these people, this cabal that's been running the place, were upping the ante. And if nothing happened, we would have been looking at extinction level event for most of the species. I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think they were just going to keep the planet to themselves with a few select slaves that were suitably genetically altered to be subservient. And that was going to be it. Everybody else is going to be taken out. But it was never going to be nuclear war. If they ever thought it was going to be nuclear war, they were completely deluded.
That's insane.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's insane. It was never going to happen because there are intelligences other than us here that have been for thousands and thousands of years, and they were never going to let that happen in a million years. You've seen all the footage of our friends from above, zapping missiles and silos. Yes. It's all real.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
it was never going to happen.
I definitely believe it. I have to ask you though, what as another kind of segue into this whole discussion is, what do you think of the chemtrails?
Mm.
They're very real.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But do you think it's a depopulation motive? Is it a geo? What is the term, terraforming, or what is exactly going on?
I think they're part of it's terror. You see, whatever they do, there's multiple reasons for it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So one is terraforming, definitely. Two is bioforming, because they're when you look at the damn stuff, it's full of smart dust.
Yeah.
Mm.
These nanobot smart dust, viruses, genetically engineered viruses, barium, aluminium, all this stuff. And by the way, the chemical symbols for barium and aluminium are BAAL, Baal, or Moloch, or their twisted thing that they supposedly worship. And there's a lot of evidence for that, and that's what they're sacrificing all these kids to, and God knows what else. Mm-hmm. But I think it's also blocking out the sun, so keeping everybody not getting their vitamin D, and everything else you get from the sun, which is, full spectrum light. I think multiple reasons. On all this hoax, fake climate change stuff they've been ramming down our throats, that, the Earth's warming up and we're going to, all the Al Gore rubbish that's been coming out, an inconvenient truth. Yes, I bet it was inconvenient, Al. But, I could go into that a lot. But, I mean, it's all been proven to be fake and hoax now. And even science, I believe, now has been turned into a cult. Scientism.
Exactly. The whole idea.
And it's all control. It's all controlled by them anyway. They control all the money, the financing, the grants.
Yes, exactly. As long as science is funded with by groups, as long as it's funded, it will always do whatever it is the funders want it to. You know, and that's what makes it dirty.
Did you ever see a textbook with Tesla in it?
No. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No. Yeah. And that's why we're still using 19th century technology.
Yes.
18th century technology in some cases, and they just jazz it up. Oh, we've got a faster train. Oh, fantastic.
Oh, nice. Yeah, maglev. Yay.
Oh, we're still using the telephone. Yes, we are. It's smart now. Yes, it is, but it's still a telephone.
It's a spy bot.
and other things.
Yes.
Comes with free NSA wiretaps. No extra charge.
Yes. And here comes 5G.
Hey, going back to the nanites and the nanobots and things like that, there was an interesting take on that released on Facebook. It was under the name Slaughterbots. Did you ever see that? Did you see that little video? And what do you think the likelihood of that is? Something like that.
I think these people are capable of anything. I think they have gone so insane, and they are so depraved, and they are so genetically predisposed to psychopathy. Let's put it that's the polite way.
It sure is.
That they will think anything that they could dream up in their twisted, sick fantasies. They would test out and make real. And have been, probably.
And that's what's scary, I think, though, too, is that as that power base is being eroded, then we move to a position of desperation, right? So that, maybe their measures that were being withheld are suddenly viable options for them to maintain power. And that's absolutely terrifying.
It is. But I really do think there is a concerted war in the deep state. And I think there are good factions in the deep state just as there are bad ones.
Right.
People don't understand that. They just think it's the Illuminati. They're all psychopaths. I don't think that's the case.
Oh, okay.
I think there are factions. I think there is an alliance, which is a good faction, and I think it's winning, and I think it's sticking it to them, but good. And I think a lot of their assets have been frozen. I think a lot of the strings are being cut. I think there's some very worried people over here in the UK. I'm hearing things coming out of the UK that MI6 has gone rogue and is turned to the good guys, and that the bad guys over here are very, very worried. Well, we shall see. But what happened at Davos in the last couple of days? There's some interesting body language changes from Theresa May. That was fascinating.
What happened?
Some of the micro expressions. Well, when she met with Trump, it was a very different Theresa May, I think.
Okay.
We shall see, but things are happening, and they're going to accelerate. And I've heard that the memo is going to be released tomorrow, but again, we shall see.
Oh.
We've all been there, the memo's today, but it might be.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, one of these days, it's definitely going to come out somehow. But
it's coming.
Yeah. And I really hope that you're right. I'm very encouraged actually to hear that there's, good factions that are, fighting the good fight because it's the right thing to do.
Right.
I'm just really concerned because I see people posting these pictures and I've obviously seen chemtrails and I think everybody has, but the amount that they're starting to do now it's absolutely terrifying.
It's out of hand.
The skies look like, they look like chessboards. It's like, this is not sky.
No, that's right. We've had bad chemtrailing for the last 2 years. I mean, really bad. Have you seen those symbols they make as well? They make the 5-pointed stars in the sky, and I've even seen a swastika.
Really?
Oh, jeez.
And I photographed it and sent it to Chris Everard. And it was in my sister's back garden. I said, they're doing swastikas now.
Oh my God.
You know, they're just doing crazy, you know, and they're doing satanic symbols and all kinds of stuff up there in the sky. And it's, but I have to say, guys, I don't know what it's like in America right now, but in the last few weeks, months here, the chemtrailing is going down and down and down. We're getting whole days of blue skies again with no chemtrails.
That's amazing.
Wow.
Which certainly in this part of the country, I'm not saying all parts of the UK, but my experience of it recently in the last few weeks is it's gone right down.
Well, that's fantastic. I have to say personally that, you know, we don't see a blue sky until about March around here. It's all wet and rainy and snowy.
Yeah,
but
we get that as well. We get a lot of that as well, but
sure. But no, that's encouraging. I really hope that you're right, and I hope they are on the downturn. I was hoping that one of the things that would happen with the Trump administration, of course, would to address that publicly and put an end to it. But I haven't seen that happen. But maybe it has to be more subversive. I don't know. I mean, when it gets to the point of geopolitics, I just don't have a beginning of understanding of all of the complexities involved there. And
deep state geopolitics,
yeah, it's just like,
and then you've got exopolitics crossover,
But I think you know, I believe very much so that the disclosure is coming, and I believe that we are moving towards that. I don't know what that means as far as, is it just an understanding that, okay, they're here, you know, and they've always been here, or they've been here for a long time, and in fact some of them live here. Right. Or does it redefine what it means to be on Earth? I don't know what it means. What does it mean to you, sir?
I think it changes everything, because the fundamental thing here of the cabal has maintained their money, their stranglehold on the planet through oil, through petrodollar recycling. Mm-hmm. And when you realize that they've had free energy devices for over 100 years,
right,
or close to it, and they've suppressed it. When you realize there's free energy devices, that the 0-point field is very real, and that you can draw energy from it, limitless energy for it forever, for free, then they lose their money and their stranglehold overnight.
Yep. Yeah, which is awesome.
And all the tech that comes from that.
Oh yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
Teleportation, jump room technology, warp drive, all kinds of stuff. Time travel, theoretically, all kinds of healing stuff.
Healing stuff would be,
you know,
great.
The drug companies go out of business overnight. You know, the life as you know it changes to Star Trek literally in the click of a fingers. You know,
that's very exciting.
That's very exciting, and it's long overdue. I think we should be there by now. We should be there by now by 70 years or so.
Yes,
we're living in a kind of just an extended like well, we'll just keep them occupied over there in the corner of the cage, you know, while we exterminate them.
Right. Yes.
Kind of thing. And I think that the game's up now, and I think very shortly you're going to start seeing this stuff accelerate.
Well, and
disclosure stuff.
It is no question that, you know, people like yourself and of course Chris Everhard and many of the hosts here on TFR have been, you know, very vocal and very involved in that whole process of uncovering all the madness going on, and it's certainly it's absolutely humbling to be a part of it myself, but you know, I just think that it's such an exciting time, and I mean this from a very profoundly spiritual place, that for about the last 6 months, I thought, you know, 2018 is really going to be something. It's really going to be an amazing year. And it just came from a very root part of myself. It's just like this excitement has been building. And, you know, I know that that calendar year isn't the magical flip of a switch, but I'm pretty sure that something amazing is going on right now, to the point that it's going to be stories that you tell your grandchildren, like, I was there when this stuff happened. It's going to be that profound.
I think so, and I think things like Facebook timelines are going to end up being preserved as historical documents.
Oh, no doubt. Unfortunately,
Twitter feeds, you know,
in a lot of cases.
Oh, look what happened there! Cross-reference, you know.
Wow.
And check out
Monuments to the disclosure.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Now, Duncan, before I forget, another question in chat was, do you have a YouTube channel, or do you have a channel of your own where people can, check out your work?
I don't, but I'm working on it all. I mean, it's all taken me by surprise, really, because I only started doing Chris's show about 5 months ago.
Yeah.
And now
kind of
it's
where
sort
we
of
are.
like gone a bit snowbally.
Yeah, well, that's
So I'm having to go, oh, I need a website. Oh, I need a I need to blog. Oh, I need a YouTube channel. But I will sort it all out.
Okay, well, if you
Definitely.
do, definitely let us know, and I'll definitely share that with our audience as well.
Right.
Because I know there's been, people have been just very involved in this process and in this conversation on the chat room. People are very interested in what you have to say, and it's very profound.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, yeah, it's going to get more. You're going to see this accelerate in the coming days and weeks.
Yeah.
I think.
Okay. I agree. I mean, I feel that the momentum is definitely building on all of this, and I certainly now you had alluded to your own missing time and stuff, and so what have been your experiences with extraterrestrials or UFOs?
Oh,
I mean,
here goes.
How
It's
far do you want to
confession
go?
time.
How far do you want to go?
Confess to YouTube. No, okay. So this would have been 2002, and I was with my then girlfriend in this house actually, and it was in the summer, and it was during a thunderstorm. Usually during a thunderstorm, and all of a sudden, in the dead of night, all these lights started shining through the window, different colors. I mean, it was literally, I know, I'm not making this up. It was literally like Close Encounters.
Oh, wow.
And then the light in the hall started switching on, off, on, off, on, off.
Oh.
And in the bedroom, the computer switched on and the printer switched on and started. There was paper it started going there was the TV switched on, there was static on it. It was like, okay. Right, then there was stuff, there was light coming under doors, there was and there was the bang bang, there was noises downstairs, and we were absolutely like, whoa. And it was duvet time again. And then it really was duvet time this time. There was stuff coming through the window, there was all kinds of weird feelings, there was very, very strange. The next thing I can remember is we were standing at the end of the path in the garden, and there was a clear sky, more or less.
Oh, wow.
And it was the dead of night, and that was it. And when I checked my watch, it was 35 minutes later.
Wow.
Ooh. Isn't that just
I have
creepy?
no memory of anything that happened in those 35 minutes.
Wow.
I've tried, because I'm a hypnotherapist, right? So I'm an expert at recall and memory and trauma, and I have not been able to get anything. It's like it's a dead thing. I don't feel traumatized. I have no PTSD. I have nothing like that. I don't think it was a cabal thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it was one of those military abductions, and
Sure.
anything like that. I think it was probably the other side of things.
No, it's a very, very profound experience, and I'm glad that you don't feel traumatized, because I'm hoping it was a very positive thing.
Yeah, it was. I feel nothing. If anything, I feel like, wow, that happened. That was amazing.
Yeah, exactly. It's like having Steven
Spielberg.
Spielberg.
Couldn't tell you what happened after that at all.
Now,
nothing.
When you hear of cases like the one of the more famous ones being Travis Walton, what is your reflection on that? Do you think he's legitimate, or?
I think Travis Walton's legitimate.
Okay, yeah, so do I. But I know
absolutely, and I also think the people involved in Rendlesham were legitimate.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yes,
all of them.
That was an interesting case.
Mm. Yeah. I've been to Rendlesham Forest. I've been to the landing site.
Oh, wow.
And I've taken photos, and you can still see the marks in the ground where this thing landed.
Really? So the weather hasn't moved them, hasn't changed them around. They're still there.
Yeah, they're not. Okay, when you go to Rendlesham Forest, the council have put signs up, this is where Colonel Holt met the aliens. All the kids go on the alien trail, right? And it's nowhere near where it actually happened,
Okay.
because we had a very famous hurricane in 1987, and that happened at Christmas, New Year, 1980. And the hurricane that happened in 87, or the giant storm, blew most of the trees down, and they had to regrow again.
Right.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
So it's not where you think it is. Also, I was taken there with two other paranormal investigators and ufologists, one of them of note. And we were taken there by the guy who was the fire chief for Suffolk on that night.
Right.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he knows
He
where
knew
everything
exactly
is.
where he was. Yeah. Yep.
You know, the base is obviously not there now. Woodbridge and Bentwaters is closed down, but you can still go and see the big gates and everything, and the towers where it all was.
Right. Wow.
Oh, so the
And you
base
could
is
go-
actually defunct as well. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
or that bit of the base is anyway. So, yeah, it was interesting. And we've seen the so-called lighthouse, you know, because all the skeptics were saying, "Oh, it was a reflection of the lighthouse." No, it wasn't a reflection of the lighthouse. We've been there, we've measured it, we've seen it from all angles, we've taken pictures. We've looked into it, and interestingly, there are reports in Rendlesham Forest going back many years to the Second World War of things happening in the forest.
Oh, no kidding. Oh.
Yeah, and there are some Second World War planes that crashed and are probably still there under the forest floor now.
Oh, my God.
It's brought back from World War II, that bombers and planes or planes that didn't make it
Wow.
coming back from Germany.
Right.
Oh, my God. That's so
Yeah,
crazy.
I think Rendlesham might be a portal.
Yeah, it sounds.
Paranormal
It's
Portal.
yeah. Well,
There you go.
we are
go.
networking.
Thanks for the plug. Yeah, sort of like the Bermuda Triangle, and those areas. Once again, like you said, it's just a matter of merging of ley lines and the amount of whatever that paranormal experience may be, and so I just think it's just incredible that that we have somebody on the line right now that can verify and vouch that this is probably what it is. And it just gives the movement just that more edge, and we're sure glad that you've come out of the woodwork and started sharing your knowledge. So definitely that.
I didn't for many years. I've just researched in the background and I just kept quiet because there was a point in the late 90s where it looked like the cabal were getting what they wanted,
Right. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
and it could have gone either way.
Yeah. Well, we had Silly Billy in office there, and a Bush or two, but they're, in my opinion, most of them. That's a political opinion.
I remote viewed 911,
Really?
Oh, did you really? Oh, my God.
and I remote viewed your president at the time, Bush.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. That's a conversation for another time.
That's another one.
He just stopped there. That was funny.
Wow. All right. Well, we are coming up to the end of the night. Hey, one more quick question, though. We do have a longtime listener that wants to know your opinion on Mandela effect because of your remote viewing and your regression. What is your opinion on the Mandela effect?
Okay, so
Got about 2 minutes.
yeah, there's two types of opinion here. Okay, so very quickly. One, I think there's a lot of mass hypnosis going on with Operation Mockingbird and stuff to make you think there's a Mandela effect. I think my own personal opinion on it is it's a psyop.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
But I will say that there is timeline stuff going on,
Okay.
Oh.
and we are now in a positive timeline.
And do you think this might be disclosure related?
Yes.
Okay.
Kind of thought that's where it was going. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Well, thank
Wow.
you so much,
Wow,
Duncan,
that's
for
awesome.
taking so much time to be on the air with us, and I can't thank you enough for not only beta testing with us, but being such an incredible guest. This is one of those interviews that could last for a week.
Yeah, we can keep going.
Yeah, I could just keep going.
Well, there's so much to talk about. There's so much to say. There's so many questions I have to ask, and of course, that just means you're gonna have to come back.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll come back.
All right. Well,
I'll be there.
okay. Well, we'll definitely schedule up a follow-up appearance because this is the kind of show that I think everybody's dying to know, and I think that there's so many things that are left unsaid. Yeah, and not just in the interview's sake, but just in the material we've covered. There's so many more layers of each of these things that we've talked about that I'd like to know so much more about. So thank you again, sir, for being here.
Oh, you're welcome. It was great.
All right, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, stick around for Jimmy Jean Into the Microcosm coming up next if you're listening on TFR Live or iHeart or TuneIn. And thank you guys for being here and being a part of the show and making it amazing. Definitely like and subscribe our YouTube channel. Find us on Facebook, follow us, and we'll make sure Duncan gets back to us about his sites as he establishes them.
Absolutely.
We'll keep you all plugged in. So
yes.
love you all, ladies and gentlemen. Be good to each other. Be kind. Be nice. And we'll see you on Wednesday for our live stream.
Bye, everyone.
Good night.
Woo!